Isaiah 5, thanks John. Isaiah 5, we have Isaiah delivering a word of criticism to people living in the south here in Judah's hill country in Jerusalem. And the segment of the chapter we're going to have a look at talks about exactly what's in view here, and that is the raising of fruit on the terraces in the Judean hill country area. So let me, first of all, put you in a better place to hear it, because we don't necessarily think, even if we grow grapes at home, we don't necessarily think about how folks grew grapes here. Step one in the vineyard development process is to build a field. And if you didn't get that, let me emphasize it. You have to build a field. You have to haul stones and collect stones to create a blocking wall. And then you need to compose a growing bed with larger rocks at the base, increasingly finer materials, and then a layer of topsoil that's going to be nutrient rich that the plant, the vineyard, that the grapevine can use. Where's the soil? So can you imagine the labor involved in building an acre of farmland? Estimated 4 to 12 years to build an acre of farmland. I imagine that's in part how high up you're carrying the materials to do so. But before you set the first sprout in the soil, you are building a farm field. Step two, you need to plant a shoot that's promising. The sorek in Hebrew is the plump red grape, and that is going to be the most desirable of the shoots. We're above the sorek Canyon. This is grape growing country. You need to cultivate to keep the weeds out. It takes 4 to 5 years before that grape sprout that you've planted has grown to a producing vine. And during that time, the lentisk and the other plants that we've seen, the white mustard, the Spanish broom, etc., they're all like, we're back, and you got to take them out, or else they're just going to overwhelm that young plant. Then you're going to have to keep pruning on an annual basis, 2 times a year. You're going to have to keep pruning that vine. You prune out the dead stuff when the growing season begins, and as the fruit sets, you identify that portion of the plant which is going to have the best likelihood of producing fruit, and you trim away the other extraneous items. And then, once you've, as a part of your infrastructure development, you are establishing watchtowers and a pressing floor. They're illustrated on page 67. If your book is in hand and you want to look, take a look at page 67, because what you'll see there is some of that infrastructure. We saw elements of it yesterday as we drove north. The watchtower is going to be out in the agricultural fields where you are removed from the village, and you go out there and live with your family while the crops are maturing, so there isn't unauthorized harvesting of your all the labor you put in for years to establish that vineyard and to make that harvest. And then the grapes, as we saw yesterday in that pressing floor, are going to be stomped out to get the juice for wine production, to supplement your water supply. The closer you have that processing floor to the vineyard, the better, because then you're not damaging the fruit in transport or having to add transportation to the item. So you get all of these steps that are involved in developing the infrastructure, and Isaiah 5 presumes that you and I know all of that, because this is Judean hill country communication meant for people in Judah's hill country. Isaiah is sent to deliver a message from the Lord to the people of this area that expresses his disappointment in what he is seeing in them. We talked about the directives and the lifestyle that the Lord asked God's people of the past to live. He looked for it and didn't see it. And he could have said it, and sometimes the prophets do in very bald language, right? Declare it as sentences that have no metaphor. Here we've got an extended metaphor that co-opts the vineyard image. I will sing for the one I love, a song about his vineyard. The beloved is the Lord, the vineyard is God's people living in Judah's hill country. My loved one had a vineyard on a fertile hillside. My loved one had a vineyard on a fertile hillside. There's your picture right there. And already we know, whoa, that's a lot of work. That's upwards of 20 years plus before the first grape is harvested of work. So immediately you go, I have an expectation about what I'm going to read, and that's about this incredible harvest. My beloved one had a vineyard on a fertile hillside. He dug it and cleared it of stones and planted it with the sorate, the choicest of vines. He built a watchtower in it and cut out a wine press as well. Hearing all the things we talked about. And he looked for a crop of good grapes, expectation, but it yielded only bad fruit. Now you dwellers in Jerusalem and people of Judah, notice the geography. It's pulling us right into this context. Now you dwellers in Jerusalem and people of Judah, judge between me and my vineyard. What more could have been done for my vineyard than I have done for it? The rhetorical question is answerable when you sit here and you think through the process of establishing a vineyard. The gardener did everything you would do that would lead to the expectation that you would have a great harvest. When I looked for good grapes, why? Why did it yield only bad? Now I'll tell you what I'm going to do to my vineyard. I'm going to take away its blocking wall and let it be destroyed. It's going to be trampled. I'll turn it into a wasteland, neither pruned nor cultivated. You don't come in and cultivate, it's cooked, right? Briars and thorns will grow there. Saw those above. I will make it a wasteland, neither pruned nor cultivated. Briars and thorns will grow there. I'll command the clouds not to rain on it. The vineyard of the Lord Almighty is the nation of Israel, and the people of Judah are the vines he delighted in. And he looked for justice, but saw bloodshed, for righteousness, but heard cries of distress. That word of warning from Isaiah delivered from the Lord to people living in this place uses a metaphor of something they knew so very well. Here's what's striking to me, and we'll wrap with this. John 15. Jesus, when he's in this area of Judah's hill country, speaking to Judeans, returns to the same metaphor, but changes it. In Isaiah 5, the Lord expresses his disappointment in the grapevine, Israel, Judean hill country people, Jerusalem people, who have not produced fruit. In John 15, Jesus comes back to the same metaphor, but he changes it. I am the vine, you are the branches. Hear the difference? He says in Isaiah 5, the Israel, Judean hill country people, they were the whole plant. Now Jesus says, I am the vine, you're the branches. Frustrated branches, right? That couldn't to produce fruit in the Isaiah 5 economy of things. If you remain in me and I in you, you will produce much fruit. And apart from me, you can do nothing. The frustration that all feel when we're the whole vineyard, and the expectation is you need to deliver better than you're giving. Jesus comes full circle on that and says, let me explain to you my relationship to that metaphor of Isaiah 5 by telling you, I've come here to be the vine, you be the branches, and it is our interconnectedness that will foster the development of that grape. So we've got two viticulture metaphors, both of which are used speaking to people in Judah's hill country, and both related to one another. another across the many pages of our Bible because we're speaking the metaphor in the same place. Isaiah 5, John 15, two portions of Scripture that are linked in space.